Marty here in Melbourne, and I have a very special guest. Is Irish born over in beautiful Mullingar. Is Jason McKevitt. Now, Jason's a historian. He's also a teacher, radio presenter with Midlands 103 radio. Also, his family are stoked in army, all of them right back to his grandfather. And his athletics, he's got lots of stories. So I'm not going to waste your time. Let's cross over and have a chat with Kevin. And we'll cross over here now to Mullingar. So let's just get Jason in there. And Jason, welcome to the show. And a beautiful part, Mullingar. Love it.
Thank you very much, Marty. It's great to be on the show this morning. As it is, it's 10:05 in the morning here in Mullingar.
Well, we're at 9:10 in the evening here in Melbourne.
There you go. There you go.
A fly got into the studio and he just landed on me. So, Jason, we've heard your intro on that. So I want to kick it off to you. And I think you're not shy with radio and you're well able to talk of that. So I want to kick it off. Tell us about growing up in Mullingar. And then if you can lead up in there and let you flow with the story. So I'm handing the mic over to you, my friend.
Okay, thank you very much. You're doing something, Marty, that Midlands 103 radio and Mullingar are terrified to do. Hand the mic to me.
Exactly.
Right beside
Hold on, I just paused you. Pause. Off you go, my friend.
I suppose my story is that, my background, I'm a teacher. I'm a history teacher and a special education teacher. But the background I come from a military family. I come from a very strong military background. I grew up in Mullingar within the shadows of Columb Barracks, Mullingar. So we grew up in a place called Grand Parade. So Grand Parade, typical military term, outside Columb Barracks in Mullingar. And the amazing thing about my family, I served as an army reservist. I'll probably talk about that shortly. But we would have been the 5th generation military in our family. So my great-grandfather served in the Connacht Rangers and served in Columb Barracks, Mullingar, when it was Mullingar Military Barracks with the British Army, served in the Boer War. Michael Creevy was his name. Then my great-grandfather, who would have been the son-in-law of this Michael Creevy, James Kilmurray, he served with the Rifle Brigade, and he served with the Royal Army Logistics Corps, whatever it was called then. And he would have served in Mullingar. Him and his brother, Leinster Regiment, joined up in 1914 in the military barracks in Mullingar and went off and fought in the First World War. My grandfather, Larry McKevitt, he came down with the 11th Dublin Battalion, the Dublin Volunteers, in around 1939, 1940, when the emergency broke out with the Irish Army. And he served in the barracks, and he also served in Knockdrin Castle. And the unit he was with one of the officers was Major Vivian De Valera, and who was, of course, President De Valera, or Taoiseach De Valera's son. So he served in Mullingar. Then my father, Daniel McKevitt, who was 4 times an army champion boxer. He died last year.
Sorry, what was your dad's name again? Because we are putting up a photograph at the end.
Danny McKevitt. He was a boxer. He was 4 times an army champion boxer, and light middleweight champion as well. So he was an interesting character. So he was in the army. Then my 2 younger brothers were in the regular army. They were NCOs in the regular army. They served in Lebanon, Syria, Chad, Liberia. They've served all over. And of course, on my mother's side, then the Kavanagh side, which I'm very proud of as well, I've a batch of uncles on the Kavanagh side that served in the military as well. So the army, all regular army. And then, of course, I joined the reserves. I'm the only reservist in the family. The rest are all regulars. And there's a joke in the family, Jay's reserve, we're regulars. And then people saying, Jay, how come you didn't go into regulars? I said, I went to university instead. So I wind up the brothers, and they go, they chown at me. That's great. But no, I love the military. The military is very important. I spent, I suppose my discharge papers is up there behind me, and I served for 30 years and 199 days as an army reservist in the Irish Defence Forces.
Wow.
And within that time, I spent 4 years on the national executive of the Reserve Defence Forces Representative Association, which was our representative association, which was fighting the corner for Army and Naval Reservists in the Irish Defence Forces. And we came a long way, because I suppose what I would have joined is what some of your viewers, especially expats in Australia, would have heard of was FCA. But the FCA was disbanded. And then what we formed was an Army Reserve. So I went from FCA to Army Reserves and all that. So yeah, I've had an amazing experience. It's the military, coming from that background of military tradition, having served as an Army Reservist has impacted me on my life, because I suppose even when I trained as a teacher, that discipline is within you. Timekeeping was within you. Personal hygiene is within you. And even fitness. I mean, athletics is a big thing with me, and keeping yourself, in good nick. That's the military. Yeah. I always find anyway. I take anyway. So that military aspect has been very important to me, and very important to my family. And and I'm very proud to say that my family served within the Irish Defence Forces and within the military, and even prior to that, served in the First World War and even the Boer War with the British Army.
You should be proud of that. And also, just to rewind a little bit, growing up, what was schooling like when you grew up? What was it like for you?
Schooling for me, I came to the tail end of the bad old days of school. I mean, I'm 51 now. There you go. And but when it's hard to say that term 51, because I don't feel it. I still feel in my 30s, And my daughter,
I still lie about mine, so don't worry about that.
And my daughter, who's 21, reckons I still dress as if I'm in my 30s. But anyway,
hey, look.
There you go. But I suppose schooling for me, and here's one of the ironies, because I am a teacher and I work with teenagers. I suppose I enjoyed school to an extent, but I had a tough time at school. I come from the tail end of the old Ireland, where you got a thump.
Yep.
You got a rap. You were segregated. I suppose the schooling I went through, it came from what part of town you came from, and what your social background was. If you came from a well-to-do, big shot family, you were minded. If you came from an ordinary working family, especially a normal military family, you were kind of, you were looked down a bit slightly. So I suppose when we look at equality now and equity within classrooms, that didn't really exist back then, in the Irish classroom anyway. No. And yeah, I got thumped. I got beaten by the Christian brother. I'll say that now. I got beaten up by a Christian brother quite badly. I remember running home to where Grand Parade, and my father in the army at the time, and Granny was there, because we spent a lot of time with Granny and Grand Parade and Grandad. And I remember my father just went absolute ape about it. Like he went so mad about it, because this is not happening here. And I think he went across and made it clear that this is not happening. So, and it was tough times. So I suppose I left school early, to be honest with you. I left school. I was in the reserves. I did a lot of stuff in my life.
So what age did you leave school at, Jason?
I left school at 16. I dropped
Same
out.
as myself, yes.
I dropped out of school. I said,
myself as well. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan at all. Yeah, but carry on.
I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with that sort of treatment. So I dropped out. I got a job. I think my first job, apart joining the Army Reserves at the time, I think it was 16 years of age, and we were in the Glen of Amal, and high explosive bombs flying over our heads, because we were in the artillery, so we're firing mortars. I mean, could you imagine today, 16-year-old kids, high explosives, to be mayhem? But that's the way it was back then. So I joined that. I got a job in a supermarket called Quinsworth. Worked away, went to London for a few years, did a few amazing things in London, worked in private security, and I give you a backstory. I worked in close protection for a little while as well. But I suppose, things happen in life, and in my 30s, I went back to university. And I went back to university without a leaving cert, and I went back as an adult. And now I hold a master's degree in special education, and I'm also a historian and a qualified teacher, registered with the Irish Teaching Council, and I'm a teacher. So it just goes to show that you can be what you want to be once you put your mind to it, and there's more than one way of getting there.
I would, and what made you want to do that?
To go back to
personally,
school.
I mean, for you.
I suppose for me, again, coming to the background I come from, I've always had an interest in history, so I always wanted to learn it and learn it proper, go to university and that. But I'm going to be truthfully honest with you, Marty. The reason I ended up becoming a teacher was the Celtic Tiger fell apart in Ireland. There was a recession. The country fell apart.
Yeah.
We were all made redundant. I was working away. I was earning good money, I'd be honest, in a job. I was working in construction field. I was working in private security. I was doing a bit of close protection work. I think for lay people, close protection work is some people call bodyguard work.
Yeah.
More about that later. But I was working in that. I was working in construction. I was doing everything to make a buck, and I was making good bucks. But then the economy collapsed, and suddenly you find yourself, I'm a worker all my life. There's nothing happening. Will I emigrate? Australia looked at possibility. Going back to London looked at possibility. Going to America. But I had a daughter here in Ireland, and I didn't want to leave her, to be truthful, because I knew if I immigrated, I would have had
That's
to leave
Annie, is it? Annie.
Anya, yeah.
Anya,
yes.
Anya, yeah.
And
obviously, you met your wife fill in the gaps there, because obviously she's trained you a bit. It's Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel. Yeah. As I said, I during that period, then afterwards, met with Rachel. Rachel's been brilliant. I mean, Rachel is a public health nurse. She's assistant director of public health nursing in the Cavan area, and she was actually out in Australia earlier on this year. She's got family out. Yeah, she was in Melbourne and she travelled across. This is one of her bucket list things, and actually her cousins out there who were very good to her, Bob Edgerton, who played rugby for Australia.
He's a very famous international rugby player, Bob.
I believe so, and
yes.
He's Rachel's cousin and a great guy. I mean, Rachel went out there, stayed in his apartment, met up with all the Edgerton family. And we've invited him back to Mullingar. So when Bob Edgerton and that come to Ireland, we have a room for him here in Mullingar. But Rachel said when she went out, we're brilliant. So flying is not my great thing. Rachel spent that period of time in Australia and absolutely fell in love with Australia. Rachel wants to go back to Australia. She would move there in the morning. She loved it. And she kind of said to me, Jason, Australia, says she, I'm a qualified public health nurse. I'm assistant director. You're a teacher. They're really looking for qualifications out there. So what do you think?
She was trying to sell you to, but you know what? She's actually very right. They're crying out. Anyone that's listening, they're crying out for public health, mental health nurses, any of that. Absolutely. But Jason, don't let me jump in now because I'm
So she's trying to sell me this, what about Australia? Let's go to Australia. Let's spend that. So she's even in my ear about Australia. Rachel has fallen in love with Australia. I personally, as I said, have never been there, but apparently it's something else. It's such a diverse country. And to travel it, like she did parachuting over there. She did on top of the hot air balloon. She dived because Rachel loves diving, scuba diving. So, and I have to say, Rachel's been good. Yeah. So that's been that. So I suppose that's how I ended up then going to university. I went on to university, got my qualifications, and that was me. But history has always been there. I mean, you come from the background I come from, you could not but love history because, as I said, one of the big things in our house growing up is, apart from all my family being in the military, was the stories about my granddad in the Congo and the stories of granddad at the Battle of the Tunnel, which was only a couple of months after Jadotville.
Correct, yes. For our listeners, my dad was in Jadotville. So this is where we're talking about Jadotville, the movie, The Siege of Jadotville on Netflix. But I seen and then the tunnel was, that's another huge part of it.
Yes, I mean that's the thing. I mean, the tunnel is where we had when people think of the Congo, they think of maybe native Africans going around with bows and arrows, and to an extent that maybe. But actually, the Irish Army were fighting professional mercenaries. These guys were hardened soldiers from the Second World War: French Foreign Legionnaires, British paratroopers, Belgian paratroopers. These were hardened NATO troops that these little Irish men from little villages of Ireland were fighting neutral old Ireland. And Grandad was there. And as I said, I think the thing about Jadotville that people need to remember is that when we put our modernity head on, we think, right, they went to Jadotville, they fought, they were captured, and then released their families. That didn't happen. Those guys, and your dad included, Marty, and a lot of the Jadotville veterans I would have known, they went straight back into action again. As soon as they were released, they went back into, they didn't want to repatriate back to Ireland. They went back into uniform and they had to serve out their tour, which ended around December 61. And a lot of them served at the Battle of the Tunnels. They went back into battle. And I mean, you can imagine what these guys are going through. I mean, what we would now understand medically. But they went back in the battle, and my granddad, when he served the Battle of Tunnel, served with a lot of those Jadotville boys who only a couple of months ago were prisoners of war. And this was before
and not only that, Jason, is that you mentioned there about the mercenaries that were fighting. Oh, now the main mercenary was obviously, everyone knows he's got a movie out, Bob.
yes,
yeah, his wife's been on my show,
okay,
and his son Philippe, he literally like understands that because his dad did different things. So it's nice to see two different sides of the coin, but what they went through, but the same. Like in the and look, let's be honest, it's not just about the Jarvels, what they went through in the Congo and all those men, and just to hit on it because I know you do that, is what they came back and went through. Not just, all of the men all over, and obviously your brothers, the real army, not like you.
yes.
Yeah. Thought I get
They,
that in there.
they would love that statement. The regular army.
Yeah, that's right. But they would have went through stuff. But anyway, let me let you go on, please. I'm fascinated listening to you.
Yeah. So yeah. That's the fascinating thing about when we're done. So growing up, hearing the stories about Grandad in the Congo, the Battle of the Tunnel, what they went through, seeing the artifacts. I mean, because the guys in the Congo, when they come back, they brought back maybe little dolls or they brought back stuff or whatever from the Congo. And I remember growing up seeing this, and then talk about my own granny story, because my granny then, she had served. Of course, women weren't allowed to join the Irish Defence Forces. Up until I think it was the early 80s, believe it or not.
It was,
yeah. It was about 1980, 81. And of course, in the during emergencies, Second World War to the rest of the world, but an emergency in Ireland. Granny and her two sisters left Mullingar and went and joined the ATS, the Auxiliary Territorial Service, which was a women's wing in the British Army to fight the Germans. So she was in Coventry as the Nazis, the Battle of Britain was going on, But the thing about it is that the irony was, up until Grandad went to the Congo, Granny had seen more war action than he had. There you go with your real army.
There you go.
He was a regular Irish soldier. During the emergency, they did their bit. But up until he went to the Congo, he had seen no battle. Where my poor Granny, this typical Irish lady, she had done her couple of years during the emergency in Coventry in the ATS. So there you go. So it's those little dichotomies of life. So that fascinated me, learning all about that. So of course, you learn a bit First World War, and then of course, like most Irish people, I have a Republican side as well, and I have a very strong Irish Republican side where we had some people who served in the British Army during the wars. But also we had other people who fought them in Ireland. So, and I think most Irish families like that dichotomy of Irishness, and it's amazing, So again, that's where my love from history came from. I went off, and I think the most beautiful thing about the love of history, I qualified in it. Now I speak with letters after my name, so the likes of councils have to listen to what I have to say, because
it
now
gives you a good platform.
Yes,
what you do,
and
yes,
now I can help to make change. I can fight a corner. I mean, it's only passed about a week ago with the mayor of Mullingar, who himself is an army veteran, Mick Dollard, phoned me. He said, "Look," he said, "Jay, I'm working on something here, and I'm going to book you now to have you on board." And I went, "Oh," says he, "we're in Mullingar," says he. "I've been fighting for years," he said, "along with others," says he, "to get a Jadotville memorial in the town to remember the people from Mullingar who served there. I mean, yes, we people from all over Ireland, especially the Western Command, Galway, Athlone, Mullingar. But Mullingar, we needed something to recognise in Mullingar that soldiers from Mullingar went out there. So this memorial is, at the moment, I believe, under construction. So Mick has asked me, would I be there and help involved in some way to assist the council on that. And I think the fact that I went to university, the fact that I had those letters after my name, kind of helps that, and it helps people, helps me, and helps others to push the case here. I think the real thing about Jadotville, and I always will say it, I'm assisting at the moment, but the real people of Jadotville are those veterans and the families, and that goes without saying. And this memorial is to the Jadotville veterans, and it's to their families. And that's what it's all about. It's not about Jason McKevitt. It's not about McDollard. It's not about Westmeath County Council. It's for you guys, you, Marty, you, and all the families of the Jaddaville veterans. And Lord of Mercy, and the Jaddaville veterans who have now passed. And that's what that memorial is for. Because you're
Jason, that's beautiful, and I know Leo Quinn will be listening to this, my partner, and that. And for people that don't know, Leo Quinn's also was in the Irish, an officer in the Irish Army, but his dad commanded it, and we became friends. But I looked at Jason, after those 165 men, whatever the total was, there was almost 10,000 offsprings, including myself, and I've done my bit as well. I've got 6. So I mean, and what they did was, but you got to remember, you were alluding to something back earlier when we were talking about how young, or even when you went in, when you joined, these guys were like 16. Some were collecting the children's allowance, which is the children's welfare thing for the families. And I think about it, I mean, I don't know. And like you said, they went on. And I'm not just talking about the Jaddaville, but what you're doing there in Mullingar, and I know quite a few people from there. As I said, Tom Gunn earlier, we had Tom on the show. What a lovely man. And you've got all the people there, and what you're doing is amazing. I hope you get Leo to join you up there when you're doing it. I know he'd be delighted to, because that's lovely what you're doing. Now, move on a little bit from that. I mean, your passion is very strong. Tell me a little bit more about your mom. We've kind of skipped over. You're talking about all the men in there, but your mom was obviously a big influence on you.
Yeah, my mother is very much an influence on me. I mean, my mother, she's a Kavanagh family in Mullingar. I mean, anyone who knows the Cavanaghs in Mullingar would be a very sporty family and served in the military as well. And my mother has been the sort of the rock for all of us in the family. She's the one that pushes us. She's the one who kind of has always been there, and she's been very important to us, for all of us. She's kind of like the kingpin. She's still on the go. She's in the nursing home at the moment, but we go over and visit her, and she's something else. She's something else. But as I said, the Kavanagh side. I mean, when I was in New York, I was visiting a cousin of mine, Frank Kavanagh, who's done very well for himself in New York, but he was a world champion handballer. That's how he ended up out in New York originally. Yeah. So he's very much involved in the GA out in New York. And, it was great to meet up with Frank over there. It was also great to, as a Kavanagh family, they're a great bunch of people, sporty, they do their thing. And a proud family. So, yeah, and I think that's been instilled in me too, that sort of that the Kavanagh gene where, go out there and do your thing. Just if you're in for the stars, if you reach for the stars, grab them.
My mom used to always say, Jason, aim for the clouds. If you hit the sky, you've done well.
I think so.
It's a similar thing. Yes. Now, your athletics, you're amazing. You're going to be showing some pictures at the end, but what drives you to that? Are you trying to torture yourself, or what is it?
Yeah, it's a type of that too. I suppose for me, the athletics, I do a lot of writing. And I suppose I'm involved with Mullingar Harriers Athletic Club, which celebrates 50 years this year, 2025. The most beautiful thing about athletics for me is that I think it's Bobby Begley, one of the founders, one of the major coaches in Mullingar Harriers. He says, when you go running, you never have a problem. And that is a fact. If I'm out running cross country, if I'm out running wherever, any little issues you have, vamoose. For that moment in time, that could be the half hour you're running, the hour you're running, whatever. But also, I find it helps me when I'm writing. It helps you. Like, I've published a lot of stuff. I mean, recently with Mullingar Harriers, for instance, our 50th anniversary book. So I was the historian as part of a 5-6 person team involved in the creation of this book, which is behind me here on the shelf. And, I wrote the history. And that's when I'm out running, I'm actually going through stuff in my head. Unlike most runners, I don't wear earbuds.
And what's the name of the book there?
Mullingar Harriers. It's actually here. I'll actually show it to you.
We'll it shows a picture. We'll actually put it up at the end. We'll put it up at the end of the show as well, the picture of that.
So Mullingar Harriers celebrating 50 years. So I've been involved in that. Also, I suppose, late last year, I made a submission and wrote a piece for the Atlas on the Irish Civil War. We were writing about executions, and I wrote about executions in Mullingar. And the last 2 executions were in Columb Barracks Michael Greeley, Luke Burke. And, so I'm busy writing chapters, writing books, and, submissions to books. And actually, at the moment, I'm working on a book, but because I work full time, it's hit and miss. You're starting, you're stopping, you're starting, you're stopping. Sometimes I wish when I was younger, I probably invested better in my pension so I could just retire right now and just write full time. But
I was going to say, when are you going to bring out your own book as your personal story?
Yeah, well, the personal stuff, I mean, I have a load of stuff there. I could actually put everything I've written so far and put it into one book, and I could actually do that right now. But I suppose for me, the big thing for me is looking at the background, the history of Columb Barracks, Mullingar. That's something that has to be done.
That's your passion.
That's something I'm working on. I mean, as I said, the dichotomy of what I'm writing on at the moment. I wrote about athletics in Mullingar. I wrote about executions in Mullingar. I wrote about the Civil War in Ireland. I've written about the famine. And here I am looking at the army barracks in Mullingar. And actually, next month, I'm giving a lecture in Longford, where I'm talking about the 350 years of Presbyterians in County Longford. So could you imagine something as diverse as that? So that's that. But I suppose for me, the running, it allows me to think things through. If I'm writing something, I go for a run. I process it in my head. And then I come back and go, right, now I'm ready to run. But also because I suppose my type of being an academic, I suppose, for the want of a better term, being a teacher, being a writer, we spend an awful lot of our time sitting down. And if I didn't run, I probably would, health-wise, I'd probably be huge. So it actually keeps me trim. It keeps me in shape. It keeps me healthy. The running does. And, so it's important to me.
And I'm sure when you're running, you said like when you're running, you're break from everything. But I'm sure you must be thinking about what you're going to write and do while you're running. Does it give you time to kind of, do you know what I mean? Does it like you time with yourself, even though you're running?
It actually does. It actually does. I mean, some people, when they're writing, if they smoke, they probably have a cigar, and that's their moment to think, the cigarette, whatever.
I'm a cigarette, yeah.
Yeah, have the cigarette and bing, a light bulb moment. For me, the running is where I get me light bulb moment.
Yep.
I'm out running and I'm thinking things through, and then I go, bingo, that's it. And then I'm trying to shorten my run to get back while it's still in my head with a pen. Yeah. So yes, the athletics to me is important. And I suppose, again, it's another thing that comes from that little bit of military training I've had in my life. I mean, I'm one of those advocates. I think everybody should serve at least a minimum period of time as a reservist or in the regular forces in some way, because it really instills something within you. And I suppose for me, that fitness and all that comes from maybe when I was a young lad joining the reserves. Yeah, that just discipline in it.
Well, I never went. I was born on the Curragh camp, as you know, but and the best place ever. We had the obstacle course that you guys trained under. That was our playground. I lived there. I never went into the army, but I loved it. I had my own little gang, and I used to have, my dad was a sergeant, so I used to have two of them. My mum stitched them on, and I was the double sergeant, whatever that meant. But I loved the whole army thing. I just never went into it. Yeah. You obviously really enjoyed it.
Yes, yeah, I did. I enjoyed it. Met some great friends, and it's look, as I said, the military to me has been an important part of my life. It's probably has influenced me in what I am. Notwithstanding, I'm a teacher. I do stuff in life, but that the military and coming from a military background has definitely influenced my life, and I think for the positive.
Wow. Now, I want you to tell me a little bit more there. Now, your daughter's going to be a school teacher. When I see here now, you're obviously very proud of her. We've had a good chance to talk before this, but does she get teaching from you? Are you the troublemaker?
I think so. Yeah, my daughter Anya. She's actually 21 tomorrow. Believe it or not. And
what's her name again?
Anya.
Anya. Yeah. Happy birthday, Anya, for tomorrow.
And but Anya did the teaching, and I'll give you a thing. We have a friend of our family, John Spike McCormick. He was Sergeant Major in the Irish Air Corps. And my dad had trained him in recruit training in Mullingar. And when my daughter, a couple of years ago, before she went to teacher training, Spike had said to us, anyone in the family there's around that age that could join up, I'm taking my daughter. wow, we get into the Irish Air Corps. So I went to my daughter. I said, Anya, you could be the 6th generation going into the Irish Air Corps doing this. And she looked, Dad, I'm sorry, it ends with you. These hands are not.
She put you back in your box, didn't she?
She put me back in my box. My dream for her had you. So, but no, she actually she went on to teacher training. She's about 18 months to go, and she's qualified. It's in Ireland. It's 4 years to be a primary school teacher, and so it's expensive, I can assure you. But she's doing well, which is good for me to see that whatever investment we're putting in, she's working hard, she's passing her exams, and she's in a couple of placements at the moment. I mean, my daughter is a Gaeilgeoir, so her name in English would be Anne McKevitt, but she goes by her name Oscailge in Irish, which is Anya ní Ghráibhéid, and she speaks Irish better than she speaks English. She has a love for the Irish language, which actually comes from my father, because my father, when he was in the army, my father was an Irish speaker, and my brother Derek, who was in the army, was an Irish speaker. So when all the big sort of events would happen in the military, it'd be my brother and my father, especially in the Mullingar area, they would have been involved in all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, so that's my daughter. Yeah. So she loves Irish.
And tell me about this. You're a presenter, radio presenter on 103 Radio Midlands. Tell me about how did that come around? Because I have listened to you, and you're very good, by the way. Love it.
How that happens, it's actually I do bits and pieces for Midlands 103, and when it comes to history stuff, I get this phone call from the producers. Jay, there's a history thing. Come on the radio. So I go on with Will Faulkner on the Today Show, or I go on with David Hollywood, very apt name for someone that works in entertainment. Yes. And I go on and I would give a history aspect, a history slant. It could be something as serious as the Irish Civil War, or it could be something as, I suppose, foolhardy, like who invented balloons. So something like that. So yeah, so we do a little bit of history stuff and that. And I suppose definitely the documentary we recorded there with Anne-Marie Kelly, behind closed doors, Columb Barracks. That was interesting how we came about with that, because it's like everything. I have a day job. Then Anne-Marie Kelly, she's a producer and broadcaster with Today FM, which is a national radio station here in Ireland, but also with Midlands 103, and she's absolutely excellent to work with. Like Sinead Hubble, who would be my little producer that'd phone me now and again, Jason, come on, you're on in 10 minutes. I want to do and these producers are gifted people, I can tell you.
I know.
They're very persuasive. Very persuasive, as you gather, Marty.
I know.
But the thing about it is, when we get back to that documentary we recorded, that there was a lot going on there. That was just before COVID, and we didn't realize there was going to be a lockdown, because Anne-Marie Kelly had phoned me and said, Jason, we need to record this show on Columb Barracks, says she. Columb Barracks, Mullingar, history, you're doing. So yeah, next we're ready to plan on the day. Fell apart. Anne-Marie couldn't make it. The next day we went to record. I couldn't make it. Something came up. Couldn't get there. So next, Anne-Marie Kelly said to me one day, she phoned me, come on, Jay, we're going to go with this tomorrow. We need to go with this. We need to say, okay, let's go. And we went and we recorded it. And we went into the barracks. And the following day, there was lockdown in Ireland. We didn't know this was going to happen. So we were blessed that we got this done. Lockdown, it was as if something guided us to get it done before lockdown. And we weren't aware it would be locked down, because it was COVID, the time of COVID, the lockdown in Ireland. But here's the deal. We went through, recorded a lot. We went into the old prison cell. And later on, I wrote about the two guys that were executed there in the Irish Civil War, Captain Michael Greeley and
I watched that. Very good. I watched that.
And I did a documentary.
I was waiting for them to lock you in there. But anyway, go on.
Well, Westmeath County Council would probably love to lock me in there, because I'm always biting at their tail. But here's one of those surreal moments that happened to us. We were recording away, and I was reading the last letter of Michael Greeley, and I think it was Mullingar Military Barracks, the 13th of March, 1923. My dearest, blah blah blah. And Anne-Marie Kelly went, hold it, Jason. I went, you all right? What's today's date? I went, 13th of March, And it was actually something like the 98th anniversary of the executions that we weren't aware.
Oh my God.
It was actually on the anniversary of the executions of these men. And because we were just rushing in to get this recorded, we were just grab a day. It wasn't that someone sat down with a storyboard plotting what was going to happen. So the next day, the place went lockdown. The day we actually recorded was on the anniversary of the executions. And here's the kicker. We recorded the show, and next we looked, there was a black cat sitting on the window. Next we looked, the black cat disappeared. And next we felt this chill. And Anne-Marie and I are looking at each other and we're going, oh, wow, this is amazing. But when the show went out on radio, without recorded across the Midlands, whatever, a while later, someone contacted me. Says she, I'm into the paranormal, says she. I said, all right, very good. Good for you. And says she, no, says she, the show was great, says she. And I love the way you connected with the other world. I go, what? Says she, if you listen to the recording, says she, there's a tap, tap, and then a regular tap. And says she, that's the other world trying to make contact with you. And actually, sure enough, I did listen back to it, and you can hear the tap, tap, and it's not like it's a constant drip. There's no rhythm to it. It's out of sync. It's not like it's. And I just gone, this is getting crazy. So I remember telling Anne-Marie Kelly about this, the producer, and she went, "What?" The two of us nearly had a heart attack over it all. But there you go. There you go.
But you look, I think everything you do and talk about the video and just gathering talking to you, and I think the audience will see that, is you're just fun. You're enjoying it. You know what I mean? I don't think you take yourself too serious either, which is a great thing.
No, do you see, the thing is, I love history, and there's ways of doing history, and history can be boring. And I can put on a tweed jacket here now and go, well, we'll talk about, back to the 19th century.
Yeah.
You can do that monologue, and that's fine. But what I like to do with history, and I suppose one of the influences is, and I met him and he died recently, is Mackin McGann, who lived in Mullingar. Great writer. He was the grandnephew of the O'Rahilly who served in 1916. And in Ireland here, he would have been sort of one of these young, hip type historians. And I suppose for me, history is about accessibility. So when I'm doing a bit on radio, or if I'm even talking here today, I'd like someone who's looking in and go, well, not all historians have comb overs. No, because I shave it off. Much to my daughter's irritation, I do dress maybe like I'm 30. But
no, there's not. No. Listen to your daughter. There's nothing wrong with that. And I must say, just a shout out, I'm dressed by Oakley Worldwide Clothing and Glasses. There you go.
There you go. Wow, that's good stuff.
Do you like that?
And if I'm right, Oakley, those glasses used to be made in Mullingar. If I'm right, they used to have a factory in Mullingar, I think.
Really?
I think so. If I'm right, I think so. I think
that
ended up a few years ago.
Well, there you go. They're getting a bigger plug there now. And I was
they're getting a huge plug there now. Yeah, there you go. But no. So for me, history, and when I go on the radio, or when I'm in the newspapers, or when I'm doing the little documentary for Westmeath County Council on the execution, where we filmed the documentary, and I'm sure people who are listening want to go onto YouTube, type my name into YouTube, and all these little videos come up and all that sort of stuff.
Well, we're going to send put all your stuff up, and a link to it, and they can go to, well, it's easy to find you in it with your name, so you just type it in and it comes up. But I want to ask you now, because we're just finishing up on time, so I want to ask you is, from what you do and everything, what advice would you give to people? And I'm not just talking about I'm talking about worldwide. What advice would you give people for their dreams, or especially your athletics? I've watched so much with you, everything you do, teaching and the whole lot. What advice would you give to us pure mortals?
My advice I would give to people is just opportunity knocks, right? And I know that's an old saying, but grab it. And never say to yourself, I can't do that. And yeah, we all have this inner person that goes, oh, no, that's not for me. Who do I think I am? Or, no, that's for other people. That's not for me. Just grab it, man. Grab it, do it, and enjoy it. It's like, I'll give you one final thing before we finish up. It's like an opportunity hit me back in 2007. I was telling you earlier, I did a bit of close protection work, a bit of body, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, being in the military, I had a couple of army reserves. I'm going to name them here now. Gudgy Gavin, a great friend of mine, and Lorcan Byrne. And they were based, Lorcan's ex-regular army in Athlone. And Gudgy was actually in the reserve. But they were involved with close protection. So next thing it was said to me that, Jay, there's a gig coming up. Would you be interested? And again, I could have said, no. No, I said, no, do you know I will? So we went off, did this gig, and it's for J.P. McManus, the horse guy.
Yeah, totally.
Gentleman, an absolute gentleman, by the way, J.P. McManus, a great guy for where he is in Limerick. So his daughter was getting married. So we went on this gig, and there was 2 principals coming in. Now, not to be mistaken with principals from a school. These were principals is what you call the VIPs.
Yeah.
So we went down, and next thing, I'm stuck in Longwell House in Mallow there, grabbing an opportunity, doing a gig. We did a risk assessment of where the wedding venue was. Next, the first principal comes in, and this wee guy, and he goes, "Hi, how are you, man?" And I'm going, "Oh, my goodness. Who was it? Billy Joel." Billy Joel. And I go, "Wow, okay, but you have to be professional." And he goes to light up a cigarette, and I go, "Sorry, sir, but you can't smoke here." "My God, man, it's getting more like New York." That was his. But a lovely guy, a very shy guy, actually very unassuming person, Billy Joel. Lovely fella.
Yeah.
I'm there 2 days of him. Next, the chopper goes back out, and these again are probably Irish Air Corps pilots doing a Nick Surdad. That was the weekend to actually invade Ireland, because every army reservist, regular soldier, Air Corps member, members of whatever were working on this gig, right? Next, the chopper comes back in. Next, the next principal comes in, and you're going, no one's going to believe this, but it's Lionel Richie.
Oh my God.
So you have these 2 superstars. I'm in the place of them, and I'm phoning up Gudgy, and I'm saying, "Gudgy, I can't tell anyone about this, because if I tell anyone about this, I think I'm gone mad."
Yeah, they won't believe you. No.
They wouldn't believe this could happen to this fella from Mullingar. But it actually did. And one of the guys from Mullingar was Martin Moffat. And Martin and I would still chat. But even my 2 brothers, they were on regular army. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yes, yeah. They won't pretend
security.
Yeah.
They were on our perimeter security at the gig, but the reservist was in the center.
They love this. They love it.
You can see the 2 faces going, "Who does he think he is out there?"
Did you hear what he just said? Yeah. Jason, listen, I could talk to you for so long, but can you finish up and just tell us? We will put it up, but how can people get more on you? What's your website, or where do they go?
I have
type your
website, Jason McKevitt, historian at L.W.E.T.B.com. I also have a Facebook page, which called Let's Get Museum of Mullingar. To go into Facebook, Let's Get Museum of Mullingar to showcase its history, and I'm there. So they're the 2 main places where my writing, or just whatever, So they're the areas, the website.
We'll type your name in and we'll put it there. Jason, I could talk to you for an hour. It's hard to believe that we've done 50 minutes already.
It actually is. It's unbelievable.
I know. Oh, that was you, not me. Don't blame me. Jason, you're an absolute gentleman, and stay in touch. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're very welcome. And thank you, Marty. And again, I'd like to conclude by just saying, as we concluded, we've had a great chat. But remember, you and I are chatting, and it's thanks to, I suppose, let's be honest, let's remember at this moment, those men who served in Jadaville and their families who are here today, because their families are as much veterans as the men themselves were. God bless the whole lot of them.
Jason, thank you very much. And you know what? I wear my dad's medal, the Jadaville medal, and all these medals from the Congo, Cyprus, and I wear them for all of us siblings and my mother. Jason, what a pleasure. And thank you to our listeners here, Australia, New Zealand, and all over the world. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, Jason, and good night.
Thank you so much, Marty. Thank you.
A pleasure, my friend. A pleasure.
Thank you.